Okay, welcome everybody. Let's have a seat if you are not seated.
Oh, there it is.
Thank you so much for coming today. This is going to be a wonderful event. We have some great panelists today who've come from near and far to come and share their career and education journeys. I'm Gianna Mori. I'm with the Career Center here at Santa Barbara City College. Val Yerman, are you here somewhere? She stepped out. She's another career counselor that's here. She was the one that was having you sign in. I'd like to welcome our live streamers today. We have some people that are online listening and joining us today. I would like to introduce some professors and our panelists. We have Mihir Mahapatra. Did I say it right? Yes. Okay, yes. Many of you know him already. Alejandro Jarabo is going to come up and talk for a few minutes about the program here at Santa Barbara City College. And then I'm going to introduce our panelists here. As soon as I get my glasses on, hold on. Oh, while I'm getting my glasses on, why do you think I wore my Santa Barbara City College shirt today instead of my, getting dressed up for this wonderful event? Anybody have any idea? Would you all answer yes or no at the same time? Are you a Santa Barbara City College alumni?
Yes. No.
What? I wore it to honor our Santa Barbara City College alumni. I was told all four were from here, but I guess not. We have one who's taken a divergent path, but you'll be able to hear all about that too, and it'll be great.
That's me.
Bios. I'm going to start with Yifan Shao. She's a 3D artist with a company called Age of Learning. She came all the way up from LA, right? Yep. She was obviously here at CC, transferred to Chapman University, and she earned her bachelor's degree in digital arts. Right after college, she got a job. Yay, that's a good thing. At a small theme park entertainment studio. And from there, she moved to the Age of Learning, abcmouse.com, where she's creating 3D assets and texture for games. And I'm going to assume that some of you know what that means. Technical language. Andrew Lindsay on my far left came all the way from the Bay Area with NASA Airborne Science. He attended UC Davis after City College. I'd like you to pay attention to this bit. He majored in philosophy with a minor in cultural anthropology. That is, you do not have to major in digital arts, although maybe the instructors might disagree with me that they want to keep you in their program. But after that, he did pursue a certificate here in animation and gaming. And he'll probably tell you a little bit about his journey, about how that came about. Currently, he's a NASA contractor for Ames Research Center, which is up in Silicon Valley. Sado Raboudi. He got his bachelor's in psychology from UCSB, and there he was volunteering in the Center for Virtual Environments and Behavior, which actually had an influence then, I think, on some of the things that happened after that. He began working at WorldViz, a company that provides virtual reality-based solutions for business and research customers. And on my left here, the non-CC student, but Oberlin College grad, got his degree in classical studies and comparative literature. And one of the things they say about working in technology is companies really want those soft skills. They want the hard skills related to being able to write and read and communicate. And some of these folks have earned that through their degrees for sure. Gabe used to teach Latin in LA before getting his master's degree in education technology from UCSB. And he's launched his own virtual reality startup called Frame. So if anybody has kind of an entrepreneur spirit here, you'll be able to get some information related to that. With that, I would like to introduce Alejandra Jarabo from our Multimedia Arts and Technology program here at City College, and she's going to talk about some of the certificates and degrees and opportunities that you have here at Santa Barbara City College. And she's got her webpage up here too. Here you go.
Hello. So my name is Alejandra Jarabo. I am the co-chair of the multimedia department with Michael Gallegos, that is here. We have 2 different programs in the department, 1 program in media arts and 1 program in animation and gaming. We have similar classes in 1 program and the other. We have very short programs with few mandatory classes that are trying to cover the foundation with digital technologies. And then we encourage students to do independent studies, independent learning, and to take other classes in other disciplines so they can customize their foundation, their background. You can see, looking at the background of now those professionals, how diverse those backgrounds are. And there's actually, any type of knowledge can be applied to digital technologies. In our case, we try to emphasize, visual foundation, be able to work with graphics, know a little bit about composition, be able to work with, still images and with animation, with video. But you can have many other backgrounds, a background in biology, a background in basically anything would be viable because every field is integrated right now with technology. It's very important what we said about communication. In order to get a good job in this field, you have to be able to talk to people, to make relationships with them, to share, to give an impression of being excited about the product that you're working on. And all those are very outgoing characteristics that some people haven't in ourselves and some other people need to learn. But I tell my students in my classes that the most important thing that they're going to learn in my classes is not what I'm teaching them or what they learn in my classes. The most important thing is the relationships that they're building with other students in our department and with other students in the college. So, being able to work with students in computer science, being able to work with the students maybe in dance, in music, if you're working in 3D. Interdisciplinary studies are very, very important in our field. And personal connections with people that are enthusiastic on any field, all that is going to be highly valuable by the time you go out. So I told you that we have 2 different degrees that are, they seem to be specialized, but deep, they're all dealing with new technologies and media technologies. And if you go to our website, that is soma.sbcc.edu, Media Arts, you can see some of the work that our students put together. We're beginning to also have social media presence. So you can look for our channel in YouTube. You can look you can look for us in Instagram or in different media, social media outlets. Here we have a link to our programs, and you can see exactly what are the classes that we offer. Our classes are a combination of practical knowledge of software and foundation in concepts that you're going to need when you work and if you transfer to another institution. Around 12 years ago, it was very easy to get a good job in this field without a bachelor's. With an AA or a certificate, you could go straight ahead, work as a freelance. Even a company would hire you without a bachelor's. You have to understand that right now, because it's such a powerful field, it has such a perspective of growth in the short and medium term, there are many people trying to go for those jobs. And if you think of a pool of applicants, people that have a higher degree, they tend to go ahead. So it's a good idea that you begin thinking maybe you have to go for a bachelor's. Now, something else that is very important in this field, and is maybe not so crucial in other fields. In our field, your degree might be important, but what is the most important is your portfolio. So you need to be able to demonstrate that you have creative work, that you have skills that are already on your sleeve that you can apply, that you can produce work with with a variety of software and a variety of languages that you can integrate image and sound and animation and video. And all that is classes that you need to take and work that you need to produce in those classes. We don't have tests in our department. There are no exams. The quizzes are just for the fun of it. They're just like a little joke that we have in the classes. What is really important is your work, is your projects. And those projects demand a lot of effort. They demand a certain amount of effort in order to pass the class, but in order to get a portfolio piece, you need to work much higher. You need to be able to redo projects at home, rework them, collaborate with other people, with other strengths, and that is the most important thing that we do. We prepare people by helping them develop a portfolio that is going to result in employment. That is the most important thing we do. And we form groups of people with different interests so they can talk to each other and they can begin collaborating and maybe, working in future companies or beginning future companies. We're at a point that you don't have to work for somebody else. You can begin building your own company. Maybe it fails 2 or 3 times. You come back to work for somebody else, and then you come back to begin again with another idea. So it's very important to think that once you get out of here, every failure that you have in an enterprise that doesn't end working is something that you have on your sleeve and that is guaranteeing your final success. That is very important. You cannot think that you're going to get out of here and everything is going to be filled of roses. Because if you look at people that have made it big time, they have made it after going, failing in companies in 3, 4, 5 times. So it's important to think that you learn from your failures, not from your successes, okay? So it's something that we try to promote, that you have to work, you have to improve, and it doesn't matter if things don't work out. What is important is the spirit and the aim of having clear where do you want to go in the future. So I just wanted to add one more thing for those of you that are prospective students. Our degrees are simplified. They're only offering the core classes. It's good that you think of skills that you potentially have that you can develop with certain classes. It's also important for you to think that you have to be capable of learning yourself. You're here during 2, 3 years, but you're going to be working during the next 25, 30 years. And you're not going to be going to class for the next 25, 30 years. You're going to have to learn things by yourself. And it's very important that you do that because your job and your good position and the good salaries that are offered in this field depend on the fact that you're presupposed to be a person that can teach yourself. And we're going to help you in classes, but you have to understand that to work in this field, you have to be capable of solving your own problems, discovering new technologies, learning new technologies by yourself. And it's something that my students tend to resent that. Like, what do you mean, that I need to figure out that? Yes, that's exactly what you have to do. You have to figure out things. And they're going to pay you a lot of money to figure out things, not for anything else, okay? So I also wanted to tell you that if you're thinking of transferring to a place for a bachelor's, think that we have a good situation with the Cal States. We have, there are a number of institutions that we have good relations with, and that if you know where exactly or more or less what is the place that you want to transfer to, each institution has a number of classes that are transferable, and they're not the same ones, and a number of classes that they demand as a first level. So it's important that you go to see the counselors and say, I want to go to this place. I want to go to Fullerton. We have a number of people that have gone to Cal State Fullerton, and they have successfully completed the bachelor's, and they have got to good jobs. So if you want to go to Fullerton, you might need to take classes here that are not the same classes that if you're going to USC, or you're going to San Diego, or you're going to San Francisco. So you need to know more or less where is that you want to go and figure out what are the classes that you need required in order to arrive there and only do your last 2 years for a bachelor's, okay? If you have questions, Michael and me are always open for people coming asking. The best thing is to do a combination of the counselors and us, because sometimes we know things that the counselors still don't know, so we can give you sometimes good advice, okay? Thank you.
Thank you so much. That was wonderful, and I'm sure that our panelists will be confirming and affirming all of the things that you've just said there. So much good advice. I did want to let you know what we're doing today as far as the program. I'm going to start out by asking the panelists some questions, and then after that, some of them will have some presentations to show you, some of their work and some other things. I did want to let our live streamers know that we are going to cut the stream when it comes to Andrew doing his presentation. Since he works for NASA, for privacy reasons, we're just going to end the filming at that time. But we'll all be able to see it here internally. So with that, I'm going to walk over to my chair over there, and then I'm going to ask the panelists some questions. Put them on the spot. All right, here we go. Gabe, would you like to start with sharing your area of expertise in gaming and/or animation?
Sure. So I'm a little bit less the person who does the 3D art and more the person who hires 3D artists to do the work that I envision for them. So while I do have a little bit of expertise myself, it's really just enough to be able to speak the language that you all speak so that I know how to interface with more technical people. So the role that I play, for instance, at my startup Frame, I'm the founder and CEO. So although not cooking up 3D art myself, I'm kind of guiding both the technical and the art team so that I'm ensuring they're kind of working together and making the stuff that makes our product tick.
Thank you. How about you, Sado?
Well, I actually started here at doing the multimedia program here at City College, and then just did a certificate in animation, so that was kind of what first got me into the field, but then, I went to UCSB and did psychology, and that's where I worked my way into doing virtual reality. Right now, I do a lot of Python coding when it comes to interfacing with the software that we use, and I mean, the 3D modeling, similar to what Gabe was saying, I have to understand a lot about the 3D modeling optimizations when people want to get stuff into virtual reality, because obviously you can't take a really dense model and have it perform at the rate that you need it to in VR, so I have to deal a lot with taking stuff that's created from a CAD program or maybe whatever people use and then being able to have a workflow that makes sense to get it into VR.
Do you feel like the classes that you took here prepared you for your current job?
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, being able to get a foundation using Maya and understanding a lot of the terms and how the 3D modeling programs work, that's been really helpful.
Thank you. How about you, Yifan?
I do a lot of, mostly what I do is 3D modeling and create textures for them for games. So I will create all the low poly models for the game or VR game, mobile game, whatever game that I'm working on, and paint the texture for the models. And since it has to be really low poly, it relies heavily on the texture to make it look realistic.
Gabe? Andrew, sorry.
Well, similar to that, yeah, I'm actually directly involved with the modeling process. I'm basically the resident modeler for MTS, which is the Mission Tools Suite for Airborne Science. So that's why they originally brought me on, was to build the models, texture them, bring them into a 3JS environment. So I've ended up doing a lot of like JavaScript coding in order to integrate that, put it on the web. Because it's all web-based. These are web tools. So yeah.
Can you tell me what a typical day looks like for you? We'll start with you, Andrew.
Well, my days are actually, it's one thing I like too, is I have regular hours. I just work straight from 8 to 4. I get to choose, which hours I work. I take like a, hour break for lunch. Pretty much just modeling all day unless there's something else to do. It's, play by the seat of your pants, I guess. Whatever comes up, I do it.
What about you, Yifan?
Well, I do have a list of tasks that I'm assigned to, so I would pick the the task that's on top of my list, that's most urgent, and usually it's a 3D model, so I would have to look for reference pictures for these models I have to create, and usually have to come up with my own design because I can't use other people's design. And then I'll create the model, UV it, and create the texture. And sometimes I have to bring it into Unity because it is for a game, just to make sure everything looks right.
What about a stress for deadlines? How's that working?
Yes, there's definitely a lot of that. Because at my company, I am working on a game, but they also have like a TV show department, which means a lot of deadlines. So I would sometimes help them, and they would just come over and be like, "Can you do this right now? Like, we need it right now." But
You have to be flexible, it sounds like.
yes, but I've learned to not panic. So do not panic if that happened to you, because
Same.
it will happen.
Same, you said,
Yeah.
Andrew, okay. Sado, how about yourself? Typical day, and
my-
maybe you could share some about your travels too.
Yeah, my days are actually extremely dynamic because I travel all over the world setting up high-end virtual reality labs, and I could be one day in Moscow or Warsaw, and then another day here at my desk in Santa Barbara digging through all these crazy hardware peripherals, trying to make sense of what things we want to integrate with and trying to stay on top of all the new technology. Other days it involves like doing meetings, but a lot of meetings we do is actually in virtual reality these days. So we'll spend hours in a headset talking to people all around the world having meetings. So it's, sometimes you don't even know where you are anymore though, because then you take off your headset, like, where am I? What's going on?
Future.
Yeah.
What about you, Gabe?
Just like Sado, I spend a lot of time in VR, enough to make you want to take naps once you get out of them. But we're trying to get users right now, and a lot of people haven't been in VR before, and I'm trying to convince them to meet me on my browser-based service and kind of say hi in VR, and I show them around the tool. So that's a lot of what we've done. We've just put out the alpha of our product, so we're taking a little bit of a pause on feature development. We're doing a little bit of environment work with some 3D models, but it's a lot of time kind of like getting users and meeting them in VR.
So starting up a company, how long ago did you start up, and kind of where are you in that trajectory?
So very early, I've been down this road before. Before I started working at WorldViz with Sado, I did a startup, education technology startup that helped teachers and students come together in 3D worlds. We raised a seed stage round of funding and did okay. Now I'm kind of more of a backseat role in that company. With Frame, it's really early. I mean, I just started this up about 2 months ago. So super early days, I put together the core team of me and one developer and one artist, but we have what we need to get started, and we keep it lean, we keep it scrappy for now.
And how's that, what's it like to start up a company? I mean, do you just say, yeah, go for it, and it's easy, or everything just works great?
I wish. I guess it's kind of a ebb and flow with me. With my first startup, I really loved having the freedom. There are a lot of different pressures, though, that you're answering to shareholders. These are people that have invested in your company, and that's a different kind of boss than your regular boss, right? You feel really invested in the project in a way that you wouldn't necessarily if you were just working for Microsoft or what have you. But then I did find, after a year or two of startup life, I was like, I wish I was at Microsoft. I wish I was at WorldViz, and then I was at WorldViz for a while, and then I get the itch again, to have more control and freedom. So, I think the dream job, you sort of find that balance where you're able to live out what entrepreneurial dreams you have, but you're also able to, live a good life and a stable, secure life. So it's not the path I'd recommend for everyone, for sure. But now is a pretty good time, I'd say, to go out and try to start your own company. It's not as hard as it was 10 years ago to raise money. Silicon Valley is back in frothy venture capitalist territory where if you have a half-baked idea, often you can raise some money. So, I'd say go for it overall.
While you're on there, Gabe, what do you like most and least about your work?
Well, what I like most is maybe also what I like least, in that this is new technology. I love that it's a kind of a new developing, budding space. But this is also what makes it challenging, right? You're trying to convince people to adopt stuff that they haven't adopted before. It's a nascent market. There aren't tons of users already out there. But that's also kind of what's exciting about it, right? You're trying to shape the space. You're trying to form the space. So it's kind of the same thing. There's both good and bad about it, you know?
Thank you. Let's go down the row and answer that question. What you like most and least about your work right now?
Well, I get to play with a lot of cool stuff, so that's really fun. I like that. I like traveling. I mean, it gets exhausting sometimes when I'm going too many international trips too short in a row, but I mean, it's exciting to see the world, and I just like being part of a growing technology and watching it evolve, because I'm also just a fan of the technology, so I'm happy to really be a part of watching it evolve.
I like that I get to make design choices when I make my models, and also get to make a lot of cute stuff. I like to make, because it's a game for younger kids, so I would make like stuffed animals and stuff, and they're really cute. What I like least about my job is probably organizing my files, which is very important. You should all organize your files. Your Maya folders, your Photoshop layers, name them correctly. It will really help.
How would you name, what does it mean to name them correctly? How would you name them? Suggest, or do you have advice?
Well, for example, if I was making a teddy bear, I would have my Maya folders, right? There's a scene folder with my Maya scene, and there's a source images folder with my textures, and an images folder where I would usually put my reference pictures in. And for my Photoshop layer, I would usually have a base color and a texture that's overlaid on top of that, and probably some highlights and shadows, and probably some wireframe in there. This is very specific. But yeah.
Thanks.
So I don't get to make teddy bears, unfortunately, but so I don't honestly have a lot of design input in the process, since basically what I'm modeling are NASA-owned aircraft that already exist. So I'm basically, I can't always get schematics for these things, so I'm always sort of scrounging Google Images, looking for reference material. Occasionally they'll give me like a CAD model to work off of. Like the one I'm currently working on, I'm using a CAD model, just kind of building over it, since the topology isn't really useful as it is. But yeah, so what do I like most and least? I definitely like the consistent hours. I like the work-life balance in my particular position, which is actually kind of rare for Silicon Valley, I hear. Yeah, I was recently able to telecommute. I'm now telecommuting Mondays and Fridays, so that's pretty cool. Well, I mean, one of the other things too is there's sort of a lack of oversight in my position. I wouldn't say a lack of oversight, but it's very open and experimental, the environment, which can be both a good thing and a bad thing. Sometimes it's easy to lose focus, and you have to sort of, let go of ideas if they don't work out. So it's a double-edged sword. But yeah, it's.
How did you get your current job, your current position?
How did I find it? Networking, people. So this job almost came to me because I happened to know, let's see, it was my girlfriend at the time's best friend's ex-boyfriend worked for NASA and NASA Ames, and he's an engineer, and he ended up posting this job opening on Facebook, like, oh, hey guy, like anybody out there, like, want to check this out? So I looked into it and I got the job. So networking, sometimes it'll come to you if you network with people outside your area of interest.
Very nice. You can also, if you have a LinkedIn account, we have LinkedIn workshops at the Career Center, or you can just drop in anytime at the Career Center too. And we can help you create your profile, and you can find alumni from Santa Barbara City College who are in the industry and connect that way too. So networking, that's a great way to find a job. How about you, Yifan?
How do I find my job? Networking.
Okay.
Really, the person that recommended me for this job was a executive producer at my last job. That's how I got my job. So she moved on from my last company to my current company and hired me from my last company.
Good deal.
I think we definitely have a theme here, because for me it was 100% networking. I started renting a room from one of the founders of the company, And I was playing in a band with someone that was working at the company, and then I started going to all the office hours of a person who had a lab that was using the company's technology. So I was working all the networks that I could, and that's...
It was not a joke when I
Wait.
said before that the most important thing that the students do is find friends and make connections is 50%.
Both within your own discipline and outside of it.
Exactly, right. So we're so happy you're saying networking because we talk about it all the time in the Career Center. Same with you, Gabe. Do you have a different story or no?
Maybe a little different. I mean, when I'm not just starting up my own crazy projects and have gotten more conventional jobs, it's been through kind of what I've done before. And this kind of weaves into what your professor said initially about how important your work is. And I think you'll find, the jobs absolutely are out there, right? It's not just in the VR space, in the games industry, what have you. 3D modelers are in absolutely high demand, animators, modelers, what have you. And it's not always about the degree that you have. If you go to them with work that you've done, it speaks louder than anything else in the world. So what I was able to do, I just said, look, this is what I had done before, at my old startup, and the WorldViz people said, okay. I didn't know them before or anything. I didn't have any other connections. So it's often networking that does it, and I absolutely value that approach. I'm always doing it just in case. It's the kind of thing you just continuously do. But work on your stuff. It'll serve you well.
I'm going to mix it up here a little bit and have you talk first, Yifan. What traits are important to have for the work that you do? What characteristics?
I would say definitely keep an open mind, because doesn't matter how good the work that you do, some people might always have other opinions and send it back to you for changes. So don't be too attached to your work, because it will be changed. What else? That's the most important one.
Anybody want to chime in?
Well, I mean, on the flip side of that, sometimes you need to have sort of an eye for what your customer wants to see, and maybe that sometimes is a little less than what you would normally have put into it. Say, sometimes there's a wow factor for people outside the industry who aren't familiar with in-depth texturing and things like that. For instance, the people who are in charge of these research missions really like to see their planes shiny and clean, which, as we know in CG, that's a little bit less effort than adding all the dirt. So I guess where I pick up the slack there is I'm probably going to do a second pass and sort of add rivets and other details, but probably not dirt. Yeah, not so much scratches and dust, because they like to see them clean. So, yeah, it's kind of interesting.
Yeah, I definitely think in a fast-moving technology, I would say the number one thing would be adaptability, because things are just moving so fast. It's even 1 week you could have to change everything and start adapting to now different tracking technologies. Even with 3D modeling, we have GLTF and PBR shaders, and it's we're always having to shift things around and adapt. And then I would say the other things would be patience, because things don't always, most of the time they don't work right away, and it's frustrating, but you have to have patience and work through it. And I would say lastly, creativity, because it's not always defined what you're supposed to do, so you have to be able to look at it in different ways.
Do you have to be, is it helpful to be a self-initiator to be able to run your projects and, just to start projects on your own, or is there a lot of oversight over what you do?
No, it's definitely you have to be able to take the initiative, because like I said, things aren't just clearly defined, so you don't sometimes know what you're supposed to do. You just have a goal in mind, but you don't know how to get there. So it's really, you have to have a lot of self-initiative, I would think.
Gabe, you're
Yeah,
nodding your head.
Just mostly agree with all of the above. Also, ditto on the ability to just learn new things on the fly. Is really important. There's always going to be that new software tool that comes out that gets traction in the middle of your career, and your ability to pick up on that is going to be key. Otherwise, you'll just be kind of left behind pretty quickly. So just that attitude of not just being able to learn new things, but also kind of wanting to and staying hungry, I think is important.
I want to back that up, because at both my current job and my last job, I had to learn a new software when I started the job. So yes, that's very important to learn new stuff.
So was it not they wanted to hire you even if you didn't know that specific software, they were willing to train you and all that? Okay.
Nice.
If you had to do something over again as far as your education and career or company choices that you've made, what would that look like if you had to do something over again? Or what sort of advice might you give the folks out in the audience as far as what kind of education or decisions to make when they're choosing jobs? Whoever wants to go first.
I think learning time management skills at an early age is a good one. I mean, I'm a big procrastinator. This is like the one area where I don't procrastinate in my life. So time management is a good one. Or I do wish I had some more early experience with a more regimented job too, because I grew up in a rural area. I had to travel like 45 minutes to be able to work as, if I wanted to work as a cashier or something. So I had to work for my dad. My dad's not a very strict manager, let's say. But so yeah, getting that early experience with like just a regular regimented job.
So that worked for you, you're saying?
No, I'm saying I wish if I could go back, I wish I'd put in more effort to do that.
Okay, got it. Yifan?
Well, I was here for 2 years, and I transferred to Chapman, which I thought was a very good choice because I save a lot of money instead of going to a four-year university. Well, you're here, so you're already making the good choice. What would I do differently?
Would you have done the same
Yes,
path? Yeah, okay.
I would definitely do the same thing. And I also think that it's good because I started as an intern at my first company. I mean, it's good if you can find a full-time paying job right out of college, but keep an open mind to internships.
When you transferred over, did you already have your degree from City College?
No, I didn't have a degree, but I completed a lot of the general education.
Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, I spent 6 years taking classes at City College, but I definitely don't regret any of that because I just thought it was fun just taking random classes here and taking my time. But I mean, I guess if I had to go back and prepare myself better, I mean, in my specific job, I've had to do a lot of catch up when it comes to programming, so probably taking some more computer science classes because I jumped into going and having to do like training sessions in Python and doing coding when I was kind of learning it myself at the time that I was having to do trainings. So that was a little scary. I guess outside, I mean, also maybe specific to my job, maybe learn some more foreign languages because I have to go sometimes and have that weird.
Sometimes you can't predict which ones you should learn though, right?
Yeah, exactly. But that's the same as programming. Which languages do you learn? I mean, I guess I would start with C++ is probably a good one to start with.
Good point. How about you, Gabe?
I don't think I would change anything. As mentioned in my bio, I was a classics major. I studied Latin and ancient Greek as an undergraduate. My first job out of college was teaching Latin in Los Angeles. And a lot of people ask me, oh, don't you wish you had done more technical training early on? And the answer, honestly, is just no. I'm able to do a lot of this technical stuff that I want to online. And, the kind of humanities education that I had, I think has served me really well. Not in ways that might be directly impacting my career now, but just in kind of shaping me as a person. So I don't think I'd choose any other path, to be honest.
Great. All right, from here, we're going to go ahead and start our presentations. And so, Gabe, we'll start with you, which means you'll need to turn on your microphone there and
So I've heard
bring.
Press this button, it'll turn.
Okay.
Test.
Give it a shot.
Testing. Cool.
All right, you got the thumbs up there. You're good to go.
All right. So Frame is it's a WebVR tool. So it's browser-based. You can open up the tool from a computer or a mobile device, and it's all WebVR. So it's coded in JavaScript, and all the 3D modeling is GLTF. So this is the format that is getting a lot of traction these days. We've fully embraced it, and it's actually the native format for the WebVR development framework we use called A-Frame, which Mozilla develops. There are a lot of WebVR development platforms out there that are really exciting. I like A-Frame myself, but Microsoft has one called Babylon.js, and there are a number of other ones. The overall idea of Frame is you come into this kind of home world, and it's a simple, like, pre-built space. It doesn't look very pretty right now, I know. but you can kind of bring in your own models. I have a few example models. You can check out 360 photos. And importantly, you can come in with other people. So, oops, this is sort of tilted. If anyone else puts in this URL right now, they would be in this space with me. So on the one hand, it's designed for kind of like collaboration inside of a browser in VR. You can use desktop or mobile, but the beautiful thing about WebVR is that if you have a VR headset plugged into your machine, you can click that button on the bottom right corner, and it renders it stereoscopically, and you can put in your headset, and you're right there. So, the benefit of WebVR versus like Unity-based applications, I love Unity, but there's very low friction to enter these experiences, right? It's just put in a URL, click the button, and you're there. Beyond this out-of-the-box like experience that we have that is still just in alpha and very early days, we also do we're like a custom WebVR development shop. So more and more people are browsing the web in VR. This is this kind of strange thing, like all these Oculus Go devices. You see Sado has one there. People are browsing the web in VR, and most websites are doing their normal 2D thing. They show up as a 2D panel in VR. They don't really take advantage of the medium. And WebVR is really interesting because a web page built with WebVR takes advantage of the medium. So companies can use their existing websites to deliver immersive experiences. And I think that's really exciting. So we're also kind of doing custom development in the meantime to keep the lights on while we develop this product Frame. So that's kind of Frame in a nutshell. I was going to do a more like a multi-user demo because Sado's in here in the world on his phone, but no reason. Yeah, there's like the avatar kind of like face down there. But if you're interested in checking out Frame in any other capacity, you can just go to framevr.io is the URL, and you can see what's going on there. So.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So do you want to show the tools that you brought?
Oh yeah, I could start off here and then show some pictures up there. So
Whatever you want to do first.
I might as well start here.
Okay.
So yeah, WorldViz has actually been doing virtual reality since the 90s, and things back then were massive, giant headsets, cost like $150,000 just for the headset. And things have obviously scaled down a lot over the years, and now you can get a $200 all-in-one headset if you're just wanting to play around with it and be in there with your friends. But we still do mostly concentrate on high-end VR labs, so this is like a new 210-degree field of view headset, has built-in eye tracking. This is, I don't know, maybe $5,000, so it's still a lot cheaper than it used to be, but we use different types of tracking systems. So this is a tracker that we build ourselves that we can put onto any headset, do full body tracking. We could track people. We have a basketball size, like an area the size of a basketball court where somebody can walk around in VR down to like sub-millimeter accuracy. Have these fun little ways of tracking your fingers. This is a data glove from Manus VR. So lots of different ways you can add interactivity. Brought some of these vibe trackers also, so you can use these. These are about $100 a piece, and you could do full body tracking that way. This is actually a new 360 camera that we just started playing around with. This can actually live stream 360 3D videos, and it does real-time stitching. And some other various just things people are using these days, but I could actually jump up and show some images of some other stuff. Yeah. And yeah, if anyone has any questions or wants to check any of the stuff out afterwards, you can come talk to me. Is this thing still on?
No, I muted it.
Oh, I guess that's what we're supposed to do.
So while he's getting set up, get your questions ready because we will have a Q&A time, and then there will probably be a little bit enough time even to stay after if you have some specific questions for some of our panelists up here.
This is actually, is this thing on right now? Yeah. This is an example of how WorldViz started. This is our founder, Andy Beal, was doing some tests at UCSB, and so this is obviously duct taped some weird headset onto a scooter, and they were doing tests of navigation in VR. And so that was kind of where it started, and like the old virtuality headsets back in the 90s, big, bulky, expensive things, but it was still pretty fun back then. But yeah, and this is us at a conference from a long time ago. And now that, I guess we get to travel around, do various conferences. This is SIGGRAPH in Vancouver, so we were showing off the Star VR headset and doing some interactive demonstrations. This was neuroscience in San Diego. This was an installation I did in Moscow, so they got to do this virtual walk the plank thing we like to show, where people walk out onto a virtual plank, and then even though you know that you're completely safe, most people won't actually walk forward because your brain is stopping you because you think that you're somehow in danger, which is always fun to let people get scared. This is one thing we do a lot of is actually projection VR. So this is, you have a series of short throw projectors all around you, and they project in 3D, and you just wear shutter glasses, and they're actually tracked, so you move around and it actually moves the environment, so you get the perspective that you're in that world. And it's a good thing if you have a lot of people too, because if they stand roughly behind where you are, they get the same perspective, and they're also wearing 3D glasses. It's a little bit more expensive than just doing headsets, but a lot of our customers do that, so there's another example of that. We just did one actually at Yale. It was 14 projectors, but it's like probably a room like maybe twice as big as this, everything just stretching out, just projected all around all the walls, so it's kind of crazy. And there's Gabe wearing the Manus gloves. And this is actually the one I was talking about. This is a system in Miami, Ohio, where they have the whole basketball court is hooked up with our tracking, and this person's walking around wearing a backpack PC. And so they're doing tests on redirected walking, so that you actually, if you have a large enough space, you could look like you're continually walking straight, but it's slowly, incrementally moving you in a circle, and so you're walking in a big circle, but you look as if you're walking straight. This is me doing the full body tracked avatar. This is an example of some of our software. So we have our own proprietary software. This one is more for the non-coders. People want to drag and drop in their models and put together a presentation. It's kind of trying to be like a go-to meeting Skype of VR. So it's a very simple, easy one to work with. And this is some examples of that. Decker's using it. And this is the one that's more research focused, where you have to basically code everything in Python and set up your models, but you add all the interactivity using Python. But that one's used a lot more by the researchers, because they want to be able to get in and do a lot more, add a lot more details, and that's basically about it. So yeah, afterwards, if anyone wants to check any of this stuff out, let me know.
Thank you. That was really interesting.
You can go.
So I think from here, we need to ask you to put your phones down. No photography, no cameras. And we're going to say goodbye to our live streamers, and we're going to have Andrew set up here to do his presentation for some of the things that he does at NASA.
Did you turn it off?
Oh, yeah.